Welcome to SFG Top Performance. We have our regulars here today, Jason and Derrick. We're going to bring you up to speed on what they're seeing out in the country.
You bet. So, really in the last month or so, the biggest thing we've seen is the water's kind of shut off a little bit, and we haven't seen a lot of rainfall, and really as a whole, the corn, even without the rainfall, looks pretty decent. A month ago, all the corn's made its rows around. It's made its kernels long. Pollination overall is pretty good. I've only seen a few misses out in the field. Really, pollination wise, I'd say 1 or 2% in the bad areas are actual kernels that didn't get pollinated. So really, all the kernels are there, but we're just gonna need some water to continue to fill those out. And we've been doing a lot of yield estimates out there where we count the rows around, count the kernels down, multiply that by our population counts out there. I like to use 90,000 kernels in a bushel. Just it's a little more conservative number, especially this year. I think we're going to have a little bit lighter test weights, and we've been kind of getting a wide range of yield estimates. We've had anything from 150 to kind of 220 and that sort of thing. Whereas last year, we were having the yield estimates were a lot of above 200. 230s, 240s in the good areas and that sort of thing. And as we know, last year was a really good yield year. But the way it's shaping up this year is I don't think we can get that top end that we had last year just because of the water we shut off. We are gonna hurt test weight, and ears are tipping back a little bit in the really high populations. Really the only place that I've seen that. I got one population trial that looking up that it goes all the way up to 50,000 plants just in one strip, and that area is looking really tough. I mean, it's a good field, but there's so much corn out there in an acre that it's tipping back easily 30% of the plants, but that's in one strip of a population trial. So we know we don't want to go that high, but the upper 30s are still pretty safe in the good areas, and we still do have some moisture out there. I know things have curled up over the last couple weeks, starting to look a little crispy. But it's still green out there, and the tough areas, of course, have fired. The wet areas where we didn't put any roots down early on, those areas look tough, or the bad parts of the field. But overall, I'd say, the bad parts of the fields are still maybe 10% and that sort of thing. So those are gonna be the tough areas that bring our averages down. But overall, things still look pretty good. And as far as the corn wise, beans, we're really just going to need to catch an August rain is the biggest thing on the beans. They still have a lot of flowers, they still have a lot of pods coming into filling the pods. I was really excited. They were full, ready to go. But the last week especially, we've been aborting some of those flowers and some of those pods, and it'll take beans put on more, always put on more than they can support, and they'll abort down 25-30%, and we're going to see all of that for sure this year, just because of the high temperatures. And there's something else been coming in the fields that I know you've been seeing, Jason. And what is some of that yellowing out there on the edges?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things going on, but the biggest thing that you're talking about is the spider mites. We're starting to see south of Milo. I noticed early in the week there was a lot of them starting to show up. When it's hot and dry, and spider mites show up every year when it's hot and dry. They're probably going to be a little detrimental to them, so it probably would be wise to treat some of them. So yes, that's just hot, dry things. There's a lot of other issues going on. There's some thinner soils that are also browning, but the spider mites are definitely the biggest spots, biggest trouble. There's a lot of these. Derrick alluded to the beans needing a rain to fill out the pods, and the corn. A rain would also help them test weight. It's still yet to be determined. So we haven't been able to get that rain, so I guess maybe we all need to try a rain dance and see what we can do there to get a little bit of rain, and maybe that'll help I don't know. Nothing seems to be working this year. It's been since the 1st of July, I think it's been a 10th in the Milo area, and around my house is where it's at. So, things look incredible though for being that dry. The corn's still green, the beans are still alive, still there. We just need that rain to help fill the pods, bring the test weight up. We've lost every hot, dry day. We do lose a little bit off the corn, probably abort some pods, but there's still potential. We have dewy nights every morning. My pickup's got water on the window, so that's watering them plants every night. So we're doing some good there. We just need, an inch of rain to really help us get more of that potential that's there.
And overall, we always kind of say that our area with the high clays we have, we tend to want to be a little on the drier side. That these hybrids are a little more resilient. And June was dry, and we sent down roots then, and like I said, caught a little rain in July, not very much, but we had about as good a weather to send those roots down. So we know there's still some moisture underneath there, and it's bringing up everything it can. So, and these hybrids are a lot more resilient than they used to be. I mean, you were even in we were talking earlier this morning in 2012 when it was really dry. By this time in 2012, everything was, you said it was brown.
We were fired. We lost our crop this time in 12, and I think that started a week or two later than this dry spell. But this one we're so much greener, and the hybrids have matured or came along so far, and the varieties of soybeans, they both came along so far that we're not seeing. I think we're going to have way better yields than the 60, 70 bushel we had in a lot of fields in 12. But things are looking a lot better. Than we just need that rain to help us get some test weight and fill our pods. Derrick, we've been to a few training sessions now that it's slowed down a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about what you learned? And then
Yeah, so this week both of us went to BASF had a field day up at Story City. They have a really nice research facility. I mean, it was a full 70 acres of research there, and it was the first time I ever been to that plot, and it was I thought it was really good. They had us it was kind of a 2-hour rotation where we had 6 stations, and they just threw so much information at us. I mean, they were throwing stuff about seed and seed treatment and fungicides and new chemicals and new sprayer technologies they have, and their BASF is really kind of one of the flagships for a lot of the traits and that sort of thing. And they one little blurb that they said doesn't really pertain to us, but they're going to have the first traded cotton that has 4 traits in it to be able to spray chemistry on. So they're really on the cutting edge of this technology and research and that sort of thing. So that kind of opened my eyes to actually how involved they are and really everything. We know they're one of the big 4 chemical companies, but they have their hand in the pot just about a little bit of everything. So kind of the main points I took out that pertains to us from that day is we were talking a lot about the residual products, the Zidua and Outlook from BASF, and we were talking about how much rainfall it needs. Outlook we know only needs about a 1/4 inch to get activated, and Zidua has a lot longer residual, but it needs they say more than 1/2 inch, and I always say you need 6/10 inch of rain. Well, the problem is with these residual products, I mean, there's some areas that haven't got a 1/4 inch in a month and a half. So we know that those residuals aren't working the best. So that's one weed control thing we've been struggling with this year is some of these products just haven't got enough rain to really work really well. And we overall I was happy with weed control this year. We had hot, dry days for spraying things like Liberty, and things were growing like crazy for our enlist to work. So overall, I'm happy with it. But the residuals, just without the rain, probably haven't activated as good as they could. But another thing to mention on those products, they talked a lot about the half-life of Zidua and Outlook, and what that means is we put our chemicals out on the ground, and the sun can just degrade chemicals, and both of those are really stable that they can stay out there for a full 8 days and still have 95% or more of the active ingredient out there, where there's some other products out there that break down after 3 or 4 days of sun beating down on them. So that's something to note, that when we get weather like this and don't get a lot of rain, they're going to be out there, a week or 2 out. When we get a month and a half, of course, it's not the same story, but that was something that kind of opened my eyes there. And another thing they talked about that I took from them is there's going to be some new chemistries that they're going to come out with, 2-3 years out. And I guess I shouldn't say new, it's a little bit different chemistries. They're working on a premix for post soybeans. That's something we haven't had a lot of. We've been kind of a la carte making our mixes of 4 or 5 different products, and so coming out with a premix will be a lot easier. And then they're adding some flexibility in the corn portfolio where it's not a new active ingredient, but making it more usable. So when we get years like this, that corn popped up in 4 or 5 days, we can spray more products post, get better control on weeds and that sort of thing. So those will be coming in the future, you know, the 2023, 2024, 2025. The short term would be those different concoctions of chemicals, I guess, and then in the long term, you know, they're talking 5-6 years, and we'll see new chemistry products that better control weeds. And like we know, we're going to need new stuff because there's really only 3 things we can use on beans. And
Yep.
But anyway, Jason, what'd you take from that plot or any of the other ones that we've
Well,
been at?
I went to the BSF one and also the one for Iowa State, the agribusiness. It was the fields plot there, and both plots they talked about tar spot, and that seems to be, I haven't seen it in our area, but it's really close to here. And they were talking about fungicide application and timing for that, and I think, you know, it kind of verified what we've been doing. That just post tassel is still probably the best, most optimum time to control the tar spot and get your optimum bang out of these good fungicides we're using. And also at the Iowa State field deal, they talked a lot about tissue sampling, and I know we've mentioned that on here before. And they've done a lot of studies with tissue sampling and also taking a soil sample right next to that tissue sample. And I did some of that a couple of years ago and found some of the similar data that they were talking about. It's very similar. You know, your soil sample correlates really close with your tissue samples. They are reliable, you know, for next year to help us plan for our crop. Now, that's not telling us everything in the soil, so we still need to do some soil sampling, but that's, you know, they're a reliable in-season tool to use to tell us where we're at and add the nutrients we need. So, Charles, how is operations?
Everything's running smooth. We're finally slowing down on the spraying. Here this week, we've pretty much got caught up, as in fungicide spraying. Airplanes are done flying on the corn for the most part. A lot of beans are getting finished up. We are still spraying a few weed fields, but for the most part, everybody's done. Starting to wind down, gonna put some sprayers away. Get ready for harvest. It'll be here before we know it. We're in elevator mode, trying to get elevators ready to go. Milo, they got the elevator up, so that's changing the skyline in that town. So you got the elevator up, got some pit storage over the overhead tanks up. Now just gotta hook everything up. But so that's looking good. Other work wise, we're just trying to do some painting on some anhydrous tanks, just trying to get ready for harvest. So we know we're going to have something to combine, so we better. That's the main thing. So
The way the weather's shaping out, it might be sooner than we think. We
Yep.
might be able to go the end of September.
you know, we started out the season, we thought we were a month late, and obviously we caught up to. We got that month back. The summer went by quick, and here we are. And we basically did lose a month this spring. You know, we watched it rain for a month and didn't think we were going to ever get anything done. And here it is. It's middle of August. State Fair's here. And races are about done. So harvest is here. It's going to be here before we know it. So, well, I want to thank you for joining us on SFG Top Performance. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you.